everybody, and welcome. This is Michael Oskam from ProAudioLessons.com, and you are watching a Pro Audio lesson. Today I'm going to show you some more vocal stuff. Vocals, as we all know, is the most, lead vocal I should say, is the most important part of any track, except for maybe an instrumental, in which case that does not apply. But anything that has a lead vocal in it, you obviously want that to stand out and tell the story. So you guys, so many people struggle with vocals, and it's my pleasure to help you in any way I can. One of the most popular videos on my channel is the modern effects chain in vocal processing. And I get so many comments each day from everybody and emails thanking me for shining some light on the subject and helping them out. So I'm going to do another one. Now, this song is a song, it's a version that I do of a cover of a Fleetwood Mac song called Dreams. And let me give you guys a little taste of what it sounds like, and I'll show you, you'll be able to hear the vocals obviously, and then I'll show you how I got the sounds that I got and what I'm doing to the vocals. Take a listen.
My crystal visions, but I keep my visions to myself.
Alright, so that gives you kind of a taste of how that tune goes. Some of you may recognize it. Obviously, it's a little different. The chord progression's mixed up, and it's there's a lot more going on. But let's go back. I want to solo up the vocals now and give you guys a taste of what those sound like. We got 4 harmonies and 1 lead line, and this is what those sound like on their own.
Thunder only happens when it's raining, and players only love you when they're playing.
And so first of all, what you want to, what you may recognize is the parts are interesting. They sound cool. Some of this I created in Melodyne, and others I sang the part. I wanted it to be super thick and stand out. So let's listen to just the harmonies.
Thunder only happens when it's raining, players only love you when they're playing.
So we have that sub octave going on down there. We have the octave above. And then we have the vocals sitting in a very cool space. So I'll explain the backups in a sec, but let's focus primarily now on just the lead.
Thunder only happens when it's raining.
Now, what I did is,
thunder only happens when it's raining.
it is Melodyne and it is hard tuned on purpose. So before I get comments on like, oh, well, your pitch correction is, I'm hearing artifacts and you're not very good at doing it. No, I'm doing it on purpose. Okay. So please save those comments. The hard tune sound is the sound I'm going for. So I've captured it into Melodyne, and you will hear some artifacts, and that's the whole point. Let's do it again.
Thunder only happens when it's raining.
Okay, so coming out of Melodyne, I'll just take you down the list here. I have a Pro Q2, and you're probably looking at this like, what the hell? And quite frankly, I haven't opened this up in a while, and now I'm looking at it like, what the hell? Obviously, I have a lot of the low end rolled off, and I'm taking out about 200 hertz. That must have been a little boxiness there. And a little boost at 400, which is the octave above, and then 700, which is the octave above that, and cut at 900, 2K, 2.3, and upwards. This sounds cool. Here's what we're going to do, actually. Now remember what I told y'all. EQ in the first vocal lesson. EQ, then compression, right? So here we are, the same thing. I'm doing a lot of subtractive and a little bit of boost, not a whole lot. And this is what it sounds like.
Thunder only happens when it's raining.
Nothing special going on. Let's bypass that.
Thunder only happens when it's raining.
So there's a little bit of low resonance. It sounds a little goofy. So let's kick it back on.
Thunder only happens when it's raining.
The whole purpose of that EQ, honestly, is to just get it to be clean and just flat, pretty much. So then I'm coming into an LA2A. This is the UAD version. And let's take a look at what this is doing.
Thunder only happens when it's raining.
All it's doing is smoothing it out. It's leveling it out. Hence the Teletronics LA2A leveling amplifier is what LA stands for. So that's exactly what it's doing. It has the attack and release times are very buttery and very fluent. So all it's doing is just smoothing it out. No more than 3 decibels of gain reduction here. Here it is without.
Thunder only happens when it's raining.
With.
Thunder only happens when it's raining.
All right, behind that, I have more compression. I have a multiband compressor. And here I'm getting rid of a little bit of those resonance as well. And then I'm expanding up here at the 4 or 5K range.
Thunder only happens when it's raining.
And with this little shift here, for those of you who don't know what expansion is essentially the opposite of compression, but it uses the same characteristics. With compression, when a threshold is crossed, when you set the threshold and that level is crossed, the compressor kicks on and brings down the signal by however much. It's determined by the ratio. So however much it's going over the threshold, it will be reduced in volume by the ratio of the threshold, or the ratio that you set. Excuse me. Expansion is the same idea, except that anything that is not crossing the threshold is turned up. Okay, and then once it hits the threshold, obviously it's not being amplified anymore. And so this is a good way sometimes, especially in a multiband setting, that you can actually boost some of the upper range. But not so much like it would be with an EQ, where if you were to boost, especially something harsh, anywhere from 1.5K to 6K, in that range where human hearing is very susceptible to harsh noises. If you were to do just a boost at that point with an EQ, it's quite possible that it would bring out a lot of frequencies that would kind of cause the listener to be like, it doesn't sound very good. So if you do it with expansion, then it's only going to expand as needed. Right? It's not a boost just across the whole time. So take a look.
Thunder only happens when it's raining.
Without.
Thunder only happens when it's raining.
So automatically, as soon as I kick on the multiband, you hear that it becomes more clear, more legible, and a little bit lighter. It almost is lighter. So that remember, the whole idea is that we're going to get this to float on top of the mix. Now, if I kicked on during the chorus, you could hear how much instrumentation is going on in the background, and yet the vocals still are the center focus of the mix, and they float right on top of everything. So but next up, we have Isotope Nectar. Now, you're probably looking at all these plugins like, holy shnikey, that was terrible. And wondering, geez, that's a lot of plugins. I don't care. There's no right or wrong way to do it. This is how I like to do it on this particular track. So here I'm using the Nectar for saturation, a little bit of EQ, a little bit of compression, the delay, and the reverb. And I'm really just using these saturation, EQ, compression to get the wet effects, the delay and reverb to sound correct.
Thunder only happens when it's raining.
So here I have the reverb with an 80 millisecond pre-delay and a 1.3 second decay, and it sounds really good.
Thunder only happens.
Delay, I have quarter notes going down, 15.9% feedback, maybe a bit much. We could probably bring that down. These are buried. This is kind of just buried underneath it.
Thunder only happens when it's raining. Thunder only happens. happens when it's raining.
Could lighten up on the compression there a little bit.
Thunder only happens when it's raining.
Behind that, I have more multiband compression going on, and this is, again, just lifting the top end up a little bit.
Thunder only happens when it's raining.
See how clear it becomes?
Thunder only happens when it's raining.
Behind that, I have some tape saturation going on.
Thunder only happens when it's raining.
That's just to kind of soften it up a little bit. Without?
Thunder only
With?
happens when it's raining. And players only love you when they're playing.
Then I have vocal rider, and that's just kind of smoothing it out again.
Thunder only happens when it's raining. And players only love you when they're playing.
Just kind of dancing.
Women, they will come and they will go.
And then to top it all out, I have a Deesser going.
Thunder only happens when it's raining.
Just to notch out some of those harsher frequencies, especially the S's. As far as sends go, I'm throwing to a long delay. And this is an effects duck. So I have the long delay consistently going throughout.
Thunder only happens when it's raining.
And you can see over here is the return. Now you hear how that gets in the way? It's going the whole time, right? But I'm ducking the effect while the vocal is singing. So right now the ducker is bypassed. So listen to it without the duck and just see how those delays get in the way.
Thunder only happens when it's raining.
So this is a very popular technique, and it's called effects ducking. I do another video on this, but I'll show it to you again really quick. You take another send off of the lead vocal, okay, and you're going to throw a compressor on. So here's the delay. Right after the delay, I'm going to put on a compressor, and I'm going to set its key input over here to that send. In this case, I call it effects duck, okay? Then you're going to turn on the key input. That's what this blue thing indicates. And now this compressor is reacting to the vocal input, or the vocal output, rather. And so as the vocal is being sung, the compressor is on, and it's compressing the level of those delays, okay? So they are not really audible. And then as soon as the vocal stops, the compressor lets off, and all of a sudden you hear the tail of the delays. So watch this.
Thunder only happens when it's raining. And players only love you when they're playing. Say women.
Very cool. And then, of course, you want to mess with the attack and release time so that it sounds musical. You don't want it to pump, and it kind of depends on the tempo and the phrasing, okay? But play with it. Hope that makes sense to you. That's something that you should practice and get to know fairly well because it's very common. So that's pretty much rounding out the vocal sound, okay? It's got a lot going on, but a lot of it's pretty simple. It's just to recap. We have EQ with some subtraction, and then a little bit of boosting here and there, and then going into an LA2A, which again is just moderately knocking off a few dB. It's just leveling it out. Followed by a Pro MB or multiband compressor, getting rid of a little bit of woofiness is needed, and then a little bit of expansion up top to give it a little bit of air and a little bit more presence. Followed by Nectar, which I'm using for my short delays and my reverb space. Okay, and then behind that I have another C4. Or excuse me, a multiband compressor, the C4, and this is again boosting some of the top end to give it clarity so that it can sit in the mix. Some Kramer tape to soften some of the harsher frequencies that are being pulled out, and also to give it a little bit of warmth without having to give it too much resonating bottom end. And then we have Vocal Rider just doing some last smoothing, and then of course a Deesser. You throw that all together and you get this.
Thunder only happens when it's raining.
And then, of course, the long delay being thrown into an Echo Boy. And the Echo Boy is returning quarter note delays. And I boosted the saturation on those delays to give them their own little sound. And then, of course, I'm doing a high cut on the delay and a low cut so that they're not in the way. And then I had mentioned the ducking effect, so that the the delays are being ducked as the vocal is being sung, and then as soon as the vocal lets off, the delays come back.
Thunder only happens when it's raining.
Very cool. So let's take a listen to the harmony part.
Thunder only happens when it's raining. Players only know you when they play.
Here we go.
Thunder only happens when it's raining. Players only love you when they play.
Again, a little bit robotic sounding. That's okay. That was the sound I'm going for. It's hard tuned. These EQs are just taking out a little bit of, well, I guess a little bit of woofiness and a little bit of mid-range that was kind of in the way. And then they're all being summed together. These two Harm2 sub are being summed through these processors, and then BGV sub are being processed through these processors. So here we have an LA2A, again.
Thunder only happens when it's raining.
And let's turn that up a little.
Thunder only happens when it's raining.
Okay.
Players
Knocking off a little bit.
love you when
Pro
they
Q2,
play.
little presence boost up top and a little bit of mud cut. The CLA Vocals is adding some top end, a little bit of compression, reverb, delay. This is a cool plugin if you just want to throw something on there. In fact, this is a preset. It's called Backing Vocals Airhead, and it's just giving it a lot of exactly that airspace, top end, and that feel.
Thunder only happens when it's raining.
So these are the two vocals that are being summed through this.
Players only love you when
And then
they
the delay.
play.
We've got eighth notes going on there, and then we have a Deesser. It's pretty straightforward.
Thunder only happens when it's raining.
We got these panned out about 30% each,
Players only love
and then the others are
you when
100%
they
out.
play.
Hard left and hard right.
Thunder only happens when it's raining. Players only love you when they play.
And here we go again. Isotope Nectar, compression, EQ, de-essing, reverb, and delay. All very fun stuff, all pretty straightforward, but you notice that everything kind of glues together nicely. Then we have an S1 imager, and I'm pushing it as wide as I can pretty much push it. And again, these are the ones that are pan hard left and right, so let me show you what this is doing. This is in bypass.
Thunder only
And then in.
happens when it's raining.
You notice how much more present and wide it sounds? Really does add a lot of space, especially if you're listening in headphones. All of a sudden, it's almost three-dimensional. And then, of course, another de-esser. And then this is being fed to that same long delay, but there's no duck going on from this send because the long delay is being ducked by the lead. So the long delay is still being taken control of by the lead vocal. So let's put them all together here, and this is what you get.
Thunder only happens when it's raining. And players only love you when they're playing.
And in context,
Thunder only happens when it's raining. Players only love you when they're playing. Say women, they will come and they will go. When the rain washes you clean, you'll know. You will know. Now here I go again, I see my crystal visions, but I keep my visions to myself.
And then the last thing I want to show you is that cool little stutter trick that I did. I'm not using any sort of plugin. I literally just went into grid mode and notched out little 16th note stutter delays. Just something to keep it interesting. So keep that in mind, you guys. You know, once you get a sound going, if you hear something in your head but you don't know how to recreate what it is you're hearing, start playing around with some things. This is the creative part, and this is where the fun really begins. So anyway, not exactly a lesson by any means. You may have picked up a few tips or tricks or techniques, and hopefully you can apply those to your mixes. As always, that's why I love doing this. Please continue to write comments and emails. If you want private lessons, please don't hesitate to go to www.prowestrecording.com and keep an eye out for proaudiolessons.com. That is almost done being built, which will be a premier tutorial website. So more on that as the days move on. But please subscribe, like, do whatever you need to do. Any and all things, efforts made on your part are much appreciated. And keep mixing, guys. See you soon. Bye.